Hey, it's Soul, and it's been a while since I've carried on about game design, leveling, progression, class improvements, etc's. Now that the Shadowlands beta is in full swing and nothing that I really want to test is working right, I have a chance to sort of step back and survey all that Blizzard has laid out before us, this brand new thing, the 9.0 hamster wheel of World of Warcraft. I'm going to be doing some, well, I guess I'll call it constructive bitching today without any b-roll, no direction, and probably some messy takeaways, so welcome to my vlog. Today I'm talking about borrowed powers, rental powers, giveth and taketh away. There are just so many ways to dog on expansion features in the World of Warcraft. These things that we enjoy for a few years before it's torn away from us. We've seen it in Warlords with the leveling perks and the garrison. We've seen it in Legion, where artifacts are more or less echoes redistributed in a talent tree or a future legendary. We're about to see it at the end of Battle for Azeroth, as just described the other week, in an article so bluntly named Time Runs Short. Enjoy the corruption before it's gone. Good riddance to corruption, though, my opinion. But all that work, all our discussions, our theory crafting, our calculating, the debates and memes over corruption are going to be little more than vapor, forum filler for the next WoW is dying post, which have been going on for the past 17 years? The transition from Legion to Battle for Azeroth was already really jarring. Our artifacts were unceremoniously turned from weapons of near cosmic power to little rinky-dinks that could be replaced within a matter of quests into Battle for Azeroth. Never mind the legendaries or the epic gear, I had my truth guard shoved into my bags real quick. Anyone who cares to fly through the Legion experience now is met with something that was not the Legion experience that you and I might have had. It's Legion minus artifacts. Battle for Azeroth is no different. Maybe it's worse or better depending on what you think of Azerite. Unlike Legion, our Azerite gear won't simply deactivate, our essence buttons don't die. There's no cutscene that we know of to depower the Heart of Azeroth, and for now, that feature will continue to work everywhere except in Shadowlands content. But what about new characters? Well, for new characters, after the Battle for Lordaeron, at that point where you're supposed to be summoned to the Chamber of Heart to claim that Heart of Azeroth thing, you don't. You don't get a Heart of Azeroth at all. You don't get Azerite gear while questing. And by the time you would get essences, well, shucks, you're already ready to ride off into the Shadowlands. Now, we're in the beta, so there might be a way for characters to eventually get their own Heart of Azeroth and essences if they wanted to. I mean, imagine if there wasn't, and veteran players had essences while newer characters did not. That wouldn't go over very well at all. But no matter what the case is going to be there, while it's nice that our borrowed powers from BFA aren't exactly going away, they aren't going to follow us either, which creates a situation. Because soon we're going to have a World of Warcraft where the Heart of Azeroth and essences clearly separate a veteran of the Fourth War to a freshly made character born out of Exile's reach. The divide is as wide as an expansion feature's worth of effort. This is not a case of, oh hey, that person got the Mage Tower appearance and I didn't. It's more like, hey, this person clearly has more capability than me when we're outside dueling in Orgrimmar, and I would need to consider grinding old content to get that same capability. This is made even worse when it's a brand new player on a fresh account. At least veterans with alts fulfilled essence requirements at one point, but walking that back just a little bit, that whole thing is a scenario that just requires some loosening of restrictions, and it's all gravy. So it can be argued that this isn't so bad. But I've got to express my opinion on it that this isn't so great either, and you can't deny the fact that it's kinda messy. We're still living in a WoW of expansion features, the fear of missing out, and the feeling of our characters not growing. Now that we have an established pattern, it makes perfect sense that our Covenant abilities and Soulbind perk things are going to end up not following us after the Shadowlands expansion ends. That big ass hole in the sky is going to close up that'll cut us off from our Covenant death houses or whatever, but while we visit, hey, we get our stuff back. But overall, we're going to be moving on to the next thing. Now, I want to at least be fair. This sort of design and development approach is what allows for creativity, reimagining, new stuff to tie character development with. There is definitely an audience who would have preferred WoW to be stuck with talent trees forever, and every expansion, one more level and one new ability on the bar would have made them a lifelong player. Unfortunately, not enough of those people were designing the expansions. And button bloat is real. I'm no expert on Final Fantasy XIV, but their button bloat feels pretty excessive, at least to a player like me, and that game has done its own share of pruning going into its third expansion. Expansion features have let the gameplay of classes feel arguably refreshing if unrefined, but the enjoyment of that is subjective too, of course. We as players sometimes find it easy to agree on broad dissatisfactions, but it's virtually impossible to find common ground solutions. I will, though, give my very strong opinion that we're still taking expansion features too far, and letting them survive in the content that it takes place in isn't good enough. It doesn't make moving on to the next expansion feel any better, at least that's how I feel. But what is an expansion feature? Expansion features are, at its core, something dressed up to look refreshing that is just designed to keep us engaged with the game. You know, grind that artifact power, get that rep, power up that essence, upgrade that building. You know what else keeps us engaged with the game? Patch features, bite-sized chunks of content that last long enough to keep us entertained and short enough to not burn us out. Mostly, like the Argent Tournament, the Molten Front, Thunder Isle, Broken Shore, and the Mage Tower, Mechagon, and Nazjatar. So, you did stuff daily, and you didn't feel overly pressured, and you came away with some souvenirs. But let's take another look at patch 8.2, because it's special. 8.2 is what happens when you have both patch and expansion content smashed together for maximum engagement and burnout. Remember, essences were a reaction to Azeroth gear, and in theory, essences would not have been a thing in patch 8.2. I know it's hard to imagine, especially if you're not a fan of Azeroth, but I imagine players would feel less burdened by so many systems at once if essences were never around. Think about it, how much of that development energy could have been put into making Warfront and Islands work better during Battle for Azeroth? I have no idea, but that illustrates just how much harm was done thanks to the late debut and ultimately just the poor execution of Azeroth armor. Blizzard is taking a big risk by repeating this attempt in Shadowlands, only this time with more effort that their first punch lands right. But so far, with only some hesitation, I feel more confident about Covenants. For all the trouble that Covenants are giving to fellow theory crafters and pundits, I see this as a much easier feature to manage than Azeroth. If this does turn out okay, we shouldn't expect additional band-aid-like systems like essences, just like Ian has said in the past. We would merely see the growth of existing systems, more renown levels, a deeper soulbind tree, more legendaries. The next patch that comes will have some fancy self-contained thing like many previous patch features, and it shouldn't feel like too much of an overlap. The fear of missing out remains, but it can be washed away quite easily if Covenant abilities follow us out of Shadowlands, which is unlikely. But as a tinfoil thought, maybe that's why Ian is so far reluctant to make them swappable during Shadowlands, because the team already intends to make them swappable afterwards, and letting that happen beforehand would pretty much ruin the possible future woo factor. If Blizzard does that, this could be one of the more successful frameworks of any expansion in WoW, when they actually get it right with expansion features. And I don't know how I suddenly came to this conclusion, so yeah, feel free to ask what I was smoking in a comment below and share your random musings, because obviously I just did. So thanks for listening, like and subscribe, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.